Roll call, please.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Present.
Mr. D'Andrea?
What's the audio?
Mr. Rogan?
Mike.
Mr. Griffin?
Present.
Hey guys, hit the switch for the audio.
Order to the bills, please.
I make a motion that the town board approve abstract number 5 dated March 13th, 2015, in the amount of $129,264.34. So moved.
Second.
Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Burns?
Again?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. D'Andrea?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes. I should have held off on the roll call until we did the abstract. Kevin?
First item on my agenda is an update on our joint meeting. We had a meeting last Thursday of the zoning board, the planning board, and the town board. I had been asking for this for some time now with the idea that we might update our master plan. Can everybody hear me? Update our master plan. I think overall the meeting was positive. I think there was a certain sense of skepticism that fell over the meeting, I would say.
You talking about me?
I didn't mention your name. I mean, I think there's a certain frustration within the town in terms of the regulation we're facing by DEC, the watershed limitations that are imposed on the town, and the issues we've had with the development of Front Street. I think one of the things that came out of the meeting was to accept the limitations we have and focus on the strengths that the town does have. Some of the things that we talked about were promoting ecotourism, farming, farm to market, which is very big these days, encouraging microbreweries, bike trails, and artisan communities were some of the things that came out of it. We also talked about meeting again in a few months. We talked about 2 months. I don't know, that may be optimistic, doing it every 2 months, maybe quarterly, or I certainly would like to have a meeting before our budget meeting, just because I think it would be prudent to consider whether some funds should be expended, whether it's directly towards the master plan, pursuing grants, or the like, but I think some expenditures should start being incorporated in the budget towards that end. So I think we should, whether we schedule it today or not, consider scheduling another meeting in a few months. Any other thoughts from any other board members regarding the meeting, or?
I thought that the point for scheduling a follow-on meeting was specific to the master plan and furtherance of that. It wasn't just a let's meet every 3 months just to keep
Right.
in the loop. That I think is something we should do at a minimum of yearly,
Right.
if not every 6 months. But it was, I think, more related to where are we going with the next master plan revision and how do we want to achieve that.
I was thinking there might be more enthusiasm if we catered the next one, if we could have some food. People seem very hungry at that meeting, so possibly.
Or adult beverages might be helpful, too.
That would probably cross the line. Alcohol would probably be prohibited, but I thought maybe some food might be, make it a little more encouraging of an atmosphere, so.
Might make me a little less skeptical.
All right, well, maybe I will work on that. I'll put that on my agenda for next time, so. Next item on my agenda is a highway request. The highway department is going to try out a new auction company to auction off certain items of equipment. The auction company is Absolute Auction and Realty, Inc. So I have a resolution before us authorizing the town highway department to employ the services of Absolute Auctions and Realty, Inc. for the sale of certain property at the highway department. So I'm just going to make a motion to move the resolution as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Third item on my agenda is award of highway materials. Russ received bids in for various materials, including crushed stone FOB going to Putnam Materials, bituminous concrete laid in place to Keck Construction, annual tree work to Laurel Oak, wash sand for ice control FOB to Harlem Valley Sand and Gravel, and diesel fuel to Stormville Oil. So I have those are all bids we received, and I believe those are the bidders that were chosen. So I make a motion, I have a resolution to award those bids as set forth in the resolution. So I'll just make a motion to move that resolution as read. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Lastly, I have 4 conference requests, all for various training, mandatory training that various employees need to go to maintain their licensing requirements as to codes and the tax assessing and the like. So I make a motion to approve, actually I said 4, there's actually 5. I make a motion to approve the 5 conference requests for training as submitted. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I have nothing to add to my agenda.
Wow. Okay. Moving right along.
Well done.
Neat.
All right. First item on my agenda is the Putnam Lake Planning Park Advisory Board. I have a request for pay rates for the year 2015 for head coach, first assistant, second assistant. The head coach rate at $12 per hour for about 15 hours a week for 6 weeks, $1,080. First assistant, $9 an hour for 15 weeks for 15 hours for 6 weeks, $810. And the second assistant for $8 per hour, 15 hours a week for 6 weeks, it's $720, for a total of $2,610. I'd like to make a motion to accept this. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Next item on my agenda is the recycling contract. I guess they didn't show up the.
Now, Recommunity, we were supposed to meet on Friday, Frank Farrell, Frank Grady, myself, and the CEO of Recommunity, well, the local CE operator of the Recommunity plant in Beacon, and he was unable to make it, so we will have to reschedule and bring it up hopefully for the next meeting.
So I'd like to table this for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Next on my agenda is the code enforcement request, Director of Codes. Bob McCarthy has been serving us for 8 months now, and I believe he's been doing a stellar job. So we have a resolution. We have a resolution here to hire him, resolution dated April 23rd, 2014, to appoint Robert McCarthy to serve as the Town Director of Codes Enforcement commencing on July 1st, 2014. And it would be the current salary.
Proudly second.
Discussion?
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of discussion
Cheryl?
on this one.
You got any thoughts on the matter?
Isn't he here? I thought he walked in. No.
Keep him.
Oh, there he is.
Sure you don't want us to throw him back? Okay.
I have some comments.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
He's a good guy.
Oh, okay. Any other comments?
You're doing a hell of a job, Bob. I'll get that CO on that deck yet.
I believe Bob's.
Yeah. What do I have until like end of May? Really.
Let's vote.
As soon as I can shovel the snow off my deck.
I believe Bob's brought a fresh perspective to the position and is doing a great job. I just have one more thing, just an announcement.
Well,
that
do we want to vote
I
on
was
this?
gonna say, let's
or-
vote on it.
Are we all in favor of doing this?
Aye.
Aye.
Are any opposed?
Mike, I didn't see you aye.
I'm still thinking. I'm with Kevin about the CO. Yeah, you can put me down as an aye too. Okay. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. I have just an announcement. I've been working with the Patterson Chamber of Commerce on I think it's the second or third annual Child Safety Day. It's the second one I've been working with. And it's on Sunday, April 26th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Putnam Lake VFW, 4 Fairfield Drive. We're going to be doing child fingerprint kits, ID cards with the Sheriff's Office. We're going to be doing car seat checks with the Sheriff's Office and Health Quest. We're going to have police canine demonstrations from the Sheriff's Office and the State Police. The Putnam Lake Fire Department will have fire trucks and ambulances there for the kids to look at and to go through. And there'll be raffles for car seats, bike helmets, and other items donated from chamber members. So, okay, I have a memo from the Putnam Lake Park District Advisory Board. Advisory Board requests approval of ECO Site Development LLC to install a curtain drain at Memorial Field in Putnam Lake Park District at a cost not to exceed $5,431.25.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Another memo from the Putnam Lake Park District Advisory Board. The Advisory Board requests approval of Bill Henry Tree Service Incorporated to remove 2 large willow trees and grind stumps at Memorial Field in the Putnam Lake Park District at a cost not to exceed $3,000. Motion.
Gladly second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, but I have one comment. Do we have to get our ECI guy to look at this business with the trees, or no? He's looking, good.
We're good
Done?
to go.
All right, me.
Pete, you have anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay. Charles, I think you're up to bat, brother.
Yeah. Next, we have a request from the Veterans Park Advisory Board to award a contract for lawn maintenance, and this is for lawn maintenance application at the lacrosse and soccer field, caretaker's property, to award it to True Green in an amount not to exceed $1,200. I'll make a motion that we approve that. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next, we had an emergency repair at the recreation center with regard to the heating unit that supplies the heat to the community room and the arcade area. And that work was done, so as a formality, I will make a motion that town board approve the expense of $1,105 to ITC North, who did the repair on March 9th. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
All right. A meeting or two ago, I brought up about the minimum wage that New York State has recently approved raising the minimum wage in New York to $8.75 an hour, which is higher than what we're paying some of our people at the rec center and at the different parks people. I spoke to Trish, our controller, and she mentioned that if we were to bring the folks up who are making below $8.75 to $8.75, it would bring us in the range of about $5,000 would cost the town. I spoke to Matt about what because the bulk of the people are down in the recreation area. I spoke to Matt, and he brought up a very good point that while he had no trouble increasing the minimum wage, it has this ripple effect on other folks who are above that and have been maybe at that pay rate for however long. So he had the suggestion about addressing this at the budget, for next year's budget, which I agree with, that he'll come forward. This way, he'll bring forward his recommendation on those making below the New York State minimum wage, and other recommendations for those who were $8.75 or $8.90 or $9 type of deal. And so I thought that was a very good idea. At least we would know we don't have 5,000 sitting around to do this, and I think dealing with it at budget time is the proper way to go. So that's that. One other thing, as we're talking about mostly the recreation department, I received a email from Matt, and he just, I'll read it for the record, and then I'll give it to Internet. Some news and notes about the rec center. The spring break camp has been canceled due to low enrollment. He's advising his staff not to take any more registrations, and anyone who's already paid will get a refund. Last weekend at the rec center, they held the Easter egg hunt, which was a big success on Saturday. They had over 100 children, ages 2 to 10, participate. And he sent this to his staff. So he's saying, and I'm going to reiterate this, a big thanks to Teddy, the Easter Bunny, Brett, Jason, Veronica, Christina. It all went real smooth. Another round of applause for Saturday's Pizza Night crew. We had over 80 kids attend. Laura and her crew, Jade, Shannon, Dean, Brennan, Jess, and Christina, really did a great job handling the large crowd. Flag football ended this Sunday. We had over 200 kids enrolled for the winter session. After each game, we held our trophy ceremony, and the kids enjoyed a snack and a drink. In all, we served over 400 kids at the rec center this weekend. Does not include all the adults and parents who attended the events, and it is fantastic. So I just want to give another shout out to Matt and the whole staff down there, doing a great job, and a thank you to all of them. Next, we have, I'll make a motion that we defer the executive session, considering litigation, until after the regular agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Anything else, Charles?
I'm good.
Okay.
Then it's you.
Alrighty. The first item I have is a continuation of a discussion that we had about the changing our town code, chapter 2, which allows alternate board members for planning and zoning board. The suggestion is to also allow both park advisory boards, both the Veterans Park Advisory Board and the Putnam Lake Park Advisory Board, with the idea that this would be a great step for the town in promoting having alternate board members so that we can do some mentoring and have some planning for continuity of operations for the future, so that we always have someone kind of in the wings that would be understanding process, and when a position is open, they can come on board and there's less of a learning curve involved. So I'm a big fan of mentoring, and I think this is something we need to do more of in Patterson. We have a resolution prepared. What I'll ask is that we ask the town clerk to file for a public hearing for the next meeting, 2 weeks from now. So moved.
My second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just procedurally, Sean, what you want to do is sorry, Rich Williams, Town Planner. What you want to do is simply introduce the resolution. That lays the local law before the town board. That starts the process. That resolution includes the public hearing in it. So
But-
that's what you want to do, is you want to introduce
Okay.
that resolution.
But forgive me, we would still need to have the public hearing before we vote on the resolution, though,
No,
correct?
no, that's what I'm saying. That's what the process is. That's what the resolution
Oh, okay.
does.
I apologize.
It
I understood
introduces
that.
the local law, sets the public hearing.
Fair
And
enough.
then after the public hearing, then you can vote on accepting her.
So that was the second part of my question. We don't vote on it until after the public hearing.
That's correct.
You said,
That's a second resolution.
He's just being technical in what he wants you to say.
fair enough.
I want the
will
record
defer.
to reflect that you're introducing the local
Okay,
law.
so then in that case, I stand corrected. I will introduce the resolution which will change the Patterson Town Code Chapter 2 entitled Alternate Board Members to
Maybe.
allow, or
Maybe.
alternate members to be allowed for the Park Advisory Board. So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
We got the linguistics
Fair
just
enough.
right.
And we have also a planning board recommendation for our discussion and our codes which relate to restaurants in town. There was a little bit of discussion last meeting, but also at our all boards meeting. I believe Councilman Cook made a recommendation. The planning board basically said that they would like us to clearly define restaurants, fast food, catering, and hours of operation within our code to allow some flexibility for any concerns that may arise, and also to not limit future development, but to allow a good exchange of information. So I believe Councilman Cook at that meeting asked the planning board to suggest those definitions so that it would be appropriate for the situation, make sure that it met with their recommendation contained in their memo dated March 10th. So at this time, I'm going to ask to table this. I would ask that the planning board, and Rich, maybe you could carry this back, that the planning board get us the proposed definitions by the next town board meeting, 2 weeks.
Yes, no, absolutely. We've got it on for the next planning board agenda. If you remember at that, the all boards meeting, I did give everybody 3 proposed code changes. One of them had to do with restaurants, which included a definition for restaurants. One of the things that did come back, just to refresh everybody's memory, is that everybody is also perhaps looking for a definition of catering. So I'm currently preparing that as well.
Okay.
And then we have the other issues with the fence and the height of structures.
Okay, thank you.
But it's more than catering, right? I mean, they're going to talk about fast food and
take out.
hours of operation?
We currently have a definition within our code of fast food. Nobody's proposed to change that. They wanted to enhance the definition of restaurant, and they wanted to put something in there to define catering. And there's also been a little bit of discussion, though nothing concrete, about, defining takeout food.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you. I have a notice here from the New York State Senate, and they are announcing, apparently they're very excited to announce that they have a 2015 Women of Distinction program that gives opportunity to recognize and honor outstanding women who made our communities a better place through achievement in business, charitable works, education, the arts, etc. You can take part in this program by nominating a woman of distinction. They say that the entry deadline is Friday, April 3rd, 2015, and the application, the nomination application, looking for where it's available. We have it here. It's available through Senator Terrence Murphy's office. And forms are available by emailing TJ McCormick at tmccorma@newyorksenate.gov.
Or ask Sue.
Or ask Sue. Sue, you have copies? Awesome. Okay. Then I have a couple of announcements. Would you like those now, or would you like till the end?
Oh, no, I want them now.
You want them now? Okay. All right. First off, thank you, Charlie. Charlie gave me a copy of a newspaper article which appeared in the Courier on March 19th, 2015. It's a picture of some local restaurateurs from Putnam County that I just happened to be a part of. No, I'm not in this picture.
Oh,
I'm not in this picture. But it's a picture of an article that appeared in the Courier which showed commendations that local restaurants in Putnam County received from the health department. Every year the health department holds a food operator seminar, and part of that is acknowledging outstanding achievement. And our very own Patrick Lacage from Rocco's Pizza was honored for the second time with a a Commissioner's Gold Award, which is the highest commendation that the health department gives for restaurants. And so I just think that's worth putting out to the Patterson residents, that Rocco's Pizza has achieved some great accolades, and hopefully people will stop in and see Patrick, and I'm sure he'll have his plaque displayed proudly. Charlie, thank you for bringing this. I appreciate that opportunity.
He makes good pizza.
And he makes good pizza. Okay. We have the Shop Putnam Business and Home Expo, which will be on Sunday, April 19th at 11 a.m. at Mahopac High School, 421 Baldwin Place Road in Mahopac. That's from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., free admission, and the public is welcome. Okay. And we have on April 25th, 2015, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., the Militaria and Knife Collectors Show at the Patterson Rec Center, and that is being sponsored by the Duffel Bag in Patterson. Admission is $5, children under 12 free with an adult. All types of items and time period items. It says that there will be food on premises, plenty of parking, and easy access. So please consider stopping by the Military and Knife Collectors Show on April 25th. And then I have, this actually is invitations. This isn't public announcement, right?
No, that's just for
That's for us.
For us.
Okay. So that,
It's about scouts and Pueblos crossing the bridge and that sort of thing.
great.
And there's some Eagle Scout things in there too.
So that is all I have. Thank you.
That's it.
That's it
Oh,
for
boy.
tonight.
Well, okay, good job. Annual audit, controller's recommendations. We have received a memo from Patricia Brooks, town controller. I have ordered the following departments for year 2014: recreation, town clerk, receiver of taxes, building department. I have found the above department records to be in order or able to be reconciled. Their receipts and disbursements accounted for with minor exceptions. Attached, their recommendations are given to the department heads to be implemented in the following year. So, looking through this, I would say that nobody's been really too bad, but maybe we acted a little quickly in Bob's department, but just kidding, Bob. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the annual audit findings from the town controller and ask the town clerk to make them available through public records. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Highway salt shed, soil testing. I have a memo here from Ron Gaynor via Rich Williams. They've been, I guess, discussing various technical stuff, and it came to be that the company that Ron has been working with on various aspects of the technical stuff wants to make sure that the soils that we are going to be putting the salt shed on are adequate for the needs. So at this time, Ron is recommending that we get a geotechnical engineer, Kevin Patton, PE, to go out there and do soil tests with, I guess Russ is going to dig the test holes and the engineer is going to do the testing for a cost not to exceed $1,000. So at this time, I make a motion that we follow Ron Gaynor's recommendation to hire geotechnical engineer Kevin Patton to perform soil testing at the highway garage in advance of building the new salt shed. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
LoSAP referendum discussion. We have a resolution, as I'm sure many of you are aware. We've gone around and around and around with the fire departments for several years now. There was a lawsuit filed out on Long Island by a number of volunteer firemen who were past the age of entitlement for their LoSAP programs. And because some of them had not gotten to the point where they received their maximum benefit, but were still in fact active in getting their points, they filed a grievance with the EEOC, Equal Employer Opportunity Commission, Equal Employment Opportunity, something like that. And they were successful. So basically, since Patterson's LoSAP program only started 18 years ago, there were members at age 65 who were then subsequently excluded from the plan but did continue to make their points. The only way a LoSAP plan can be amended is either through court order or through referendum. And since the fire department chose not to take us to court to amend the plan, following the recommendation of the town attorney, we have a resolution for referendum on the amendment of LoSAP. There are a couple other questions I wanted to ask, Counselor. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to Mike Ligori.
I have not discussed this with him.
All right, well then I will discuss it with him tomorrow when I see him. I think I'm going to table this for tonight because I want to know if there are other opportunities. You know, this is very specific about the EEOC issue. I wonder, I want to make sure if there's other things that the board wants to consider in amendments to the plans. The point system, the 50 points, because some departments get half points instead of full points, which requires more time. Also, in 2013, other conversations have taken place in the town. We've had problems getting ambulances out, getting responses to fire departments. We had almost 90 individuals eligible for LoSAP, yet at the same time we were struggling to get ambulances out, etc. So the discussion came up about whether there's a possibility of limiting the number of people in particular aspects. In other words, interior attack firefighter is one designation of a firefighter. General service is another designation. Fire, police, EMS. We want to find out if there's a possibility whether we could limit the number of individuals. I know we capped the number of individuals who could be in the program, but I'm wondering, if we've got 80% of the individuals are general service and only 5 or 6% are interior attack firemen, if we want a possibility if we can limit, be that specific as to our limitations. But those are all questions I think we got to get answered. Does anybody else have any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I think that's a good idea, because
Well, the LoSAP program runs almost $140,000 a year to the taxpayers. And when we're talking about spending another $300,000 to pay for ambulance service and other things, I think that we have to look at all areas where we could potentially save some money, because $1.4 million for fire and ambulance Now to potentially go to 1.7 is, it's big dollars. And when we get $140,000 a year going, to LoSAP, and this EEOC claim is gonna cost probably, will just about double that number for the year in which it's implemented, because we have, I think, 6 or 7, maybe as many as 8 individuals who are going to be entitled to substantial checks, and they're going to see their benefit checks go from $40-50 to as much as $400. So, I think that we really need to take a look at all aspects of what we're doing with emergency services and see where there is potential for savings. So
So it would be a town-wide referendum in November?
that's what this calls for, but unfortunately, it only really at this time addresses the issue of, and I don't necessarily want to lock ourselves just to that issue. If there are other, other possibilities or other conversations that need to be had with other changes that might, be made that would potentially help with some savings in the plan.
What is,
I don't know the deadline, Ken, sorry. I don't know the deadline for placing it on the ballot, but I think we still have plenty of time.
Oh, yeah, we've got until, I think, August.
what
We
is,
have a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it might be like 3 months before the general elections.
what is the cost of the referendum to the town roughly, like ballpark?
If we do it at the general, it's virtually no cost. I mean, we don't pay for elections anymore other than through our county taxes. But if we did a special, then it would probably, I know in the past, the primaries were about $5,000 and generals were about $8,000. So it would be about a $5,000 or $6,000 expense if
So-
we did it separate.
I mean, obviously, we're incurring a potential liability every year that goes past that we don't address it, right? So in other words, if we wait till next year to do it, it's that much time under our belt, but we should certainly, if we don't do the referendum, apportion the money or set aside the money. If no referendum is done and no lawsuit is brought, what happens? In other words, if we do nothing,
Well, the same thing that's been happening for the last 5 or 6 years. We just roll on. I mean, basically, I've had multiple conversations with the fire departments to say, look, just file in court, we'll amend the plan, plead no contest, and it's done.
but is it, I mean, is
So-
it a sense that the membership is not interested in pursuing that?
I'm not sure what it is, but I think we really need, and I've had this conversation with Don, EEOC will come up here. They have no ability to order us to amend the plan, but they certainly have the ability to fine us a substantial amount of money for being out of compliance. And Don and I discussed this, and to protect the town, we need to be proactive in this. We need to put this out so that if they do next week, next month, go to the EEOC, we can at least say, hey, look, we're addressing it. We're taking steps. It'll be by the end of this year, it'll be resolved. Of course, I don't know what happens if it fails, referendum, but that's a contingency I don't have an answer for, because if we go to the voters and the voters say no, it doesn't absolve us of our responsibility to deal with the equal employment opportunity issue of the guys that are over 65 that are still making their points and entitled to the money.
Now, we have an obligation to do a white paper or something to inform the voters on this?
Yes.
I mean, we have to tell them.
Believe me,
We just can't slap it up there and.
We're going to have multiple conversations about this, because once we start getting into the nuts and bolts of this, I guarantee you the fire department's going to be here in full force. So,
Well, the people are gonna come to vote.
yes,
They
well,
have to know,
yes, we will.
what does this mean?
No, there'll be an education process, which is why, I wanted to get started at this point
Yep.
in March as opposed to in August. So that we can discuss this with the departments, see where the mutual ground is, and also make sure we find out where we stand as to what we can and can't do. Okay, salt shed, LoSAP, Munistat. Munistat basically is it's not exactly our bond counsel, but what they do provide for us is every year they do our financial reports to keep our bond rating in place, because we do have monies with the Environmental Facilities Corporation and bonds in excess of $1 million, because basically the sewer plant. But every year we have to go through, we need to renew this at this point. We have a resolution. Basically, it's about $1,000 a year for them to file with Standard & Poor's and those folks to keep our bond rating in place. So at this time, I'd like to move the resolution for personal services contract with Munistat Services, Inc. for municipal finance advisory services. If you look at Appendix B, it goes through the fees and schedules, and basically it talks about if you borrow between $1 million and $50 million or $5 million, the fee will be X, and if you do this and it's under, it's negotiated and blah, blah, blah. So I can't really give you a specific dollar amount other than to say that what they've been doing us for the last few years is simply filing the annual financials to keep our bond rating in place, which is $1,000. So this time I'll move the resolution as read, and if anybody has any questions, just check Appendix B and you'll understand what the fee schedule is. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm going to ask that I make a motion to add one thing to my agenda tonight. So moved. That has to do with the Putnam County Real Property Tax Services contract, which came in this week as opposed to last week, which is why it didn't get onto the agenda, but the county would like it back. It's funny how they wait, send it to us, and then they want it back in 3 days. But at this time, I'd like to move the resolution approving Putnam County Real Property Tax Services contract for the town of Patterson for 2015, blah, 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 2 cents a parcel. You have a little less than 5,000 parcels, so it's not a big deal. Anyway, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we go on to other business. Who wants to talk about the release and waiver of liability? Besides Don. Don, you want to tell us about this?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Never mind. Well, cozy up to the microphone and tell us what you think this is all about.
Well, it's a release for persons who volunteer, and it covers both the volunteer, him or herself, and if under the age of 18, appropriate indications of the guardian or parent to confirm that the volunteer is basically serving at their own risk, and they agree to release and waive any claims other than those related to gross negligence or bad faith on the part of the town. So it's a form that basically our office has reviewed and revised from what was previously there.
Yeah. Is this to be signed in blood?
Blood and, yes,
Well, this
pledge
is,
of the firstborn.
Seems very thorough, I will say that.
Well,
Holy
first time
moly.
for everything.
If this doesn't discourage you from being a volunteer, I don't know what would. Assumption of risk, release and waiver, medical treatment.
If you make it to page 2, you're dedicated.
Whew. Photographic release, miscellaneous. Yikes. Okay, well,
God forbid, it only takes one.
yeah, I know, I hear you. It's them lawyers out there today, they're just wrecking everything. At this time, I guess since nobody wanted to talk about it besides Don and me, and I'll make a motion that we approve the release and waiver of liability. So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Other business. Anybody? Pete?
Nope.
Sean?
Well, seeing as how this includes photo waiver, we haven't heard anything back from that. We had a claim on a photo that was used like a year
No.
ago that we
No.
kind of said, let's
The
not
one
do
that I
anything.
said ignore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I
What are you
agree
bringing it up
100%.
for?
Figured we haven't heard anything, so.
Don't you know this is broadcast?
Yeah, but. Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay. Anything
Having
else you
said
want to talk
that-
about?
No.
Kevin?
Nothing.
Charlie?
Nope.
Now to our favorite part of the meeting, public recognition. I bet Joe's going to raise his hand and ask why I didn't tape the all boards meeting, because I talked to the videographer, Joe, and he said it would be almost impossible to make audio out of it based on the way we have the microphones configured. So if we're going to do another one, we may have to move it to a different location. Paul seems to think he can rustle up about 8 microphones. I think we have probably the same amount, so that would mean everybody would get a microphone. And God help us all once we all have microphones. Anyway, is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard at this time?
Good evening, Dee Dee Lifgren from Putnam Lake. You've seen me before, but I must once again petition the town to take some action about the barbecue place in Putnam Lake. I'd like to review our personal situation one more time. We bought our home in the 80s in a residential district with residences all around. After we moved in, the town inappropriately approved a home behind our house to be used as a restaurant, even though it was in a residential district. This was an 816 square foot house on a small piece of property, less than a third of what's required now. The approval was a mistake and was done without any public notification, without a public hearing, and without knowledge of adjoining property owners. No site plan or building permits were even required. When we found out after the fact, we were told nothing could be done when the restaurant suddenly appeared. To make matters worse, years later, a line redrawn on an updated zoning map placed this property within a general business district. Although also a mistake, it nevertheless gave the property sudden rights as a general business entity instead of a residential one it was in. Without any approvals, without any town notice, without any adjoining property notice to knowledge to the property owners, we suddenly bordered a business district. Jump to today, these mistakes have led to the worst kind of scenario for us. Last year, the building was rented and the town allowed an established barbecue caterer to open up a business that smokes and processes meat 24 hours a day, 50 feet from our home. To be clear, we never would have bought a home behind the restaurant. The town just took our residential boundary away. That's bad enough, but we never would have imagined that the restaurant would be allowed to smoke meat all day and all night. We work from home too, so literally we can't get away from it. I can really tell you that this redefines peaceful enjoyment of one's property. The town has created this whole problem for us, and now the town refuses to fix it or act in any way to help. Let me review our requests. We first asked the town to help mitigate the smoke and the noise and the odor coming from the new restaurant. The town said it did not have the authority under the code to help relieve any of the impacts. We asked that the smoking, the utility fan and compressors be stopped during the nighttime hours from some peace and quiet. The town said no, it could not stop a restaurant from operating all night long. We then asked that the catering business operating out of the restaurant be stopped. Catering is, after all, restricted in the district altogether. Clearly promoted on their website, the quantities being cooked for fairs and other events produce more smoke, more smell, more activities than this little restaurant with only 4 tables could possibly produce. The code enforcement has said that catering is accessory normal restaurant activity there, despite the fact its volume outnumbers restaurant activity and requires extra cooking through the night. How can the catering be part of a restaurant activity if the restaurant is closed all winter long? Is it normal for restaurant activity to close down on summer weekends to sell food at off-site locations instead? If I could read the current town code definition of restaurant, it says, a building or portion thereof where food and beverages are sold for consumption to customers seated within the building. A building or portion thereof where the main portion of food and beverages are sold to patrons at drive-in windows or stand-up counters shall not be considered a restaurant. With all due respect, this business can't even qualify as a restaurant under the town code. And all the takeout and catering disqualifies it. How can the town be consistently using this reason for taking no action? It is defined under the code as a fast food establishment because it sells food from a limited menu of specialized items. The food is pre-processed. It's all served out of disposable containers. All sales are conducted at a stand-up counter. All food is served from a stand-up counter. And as it happens, both fast food and catering are not permitted in this general business district. Patterson Code Enforcement refuses to acknowledge that any violations exist, either under the definition of restaurant, fast food, catering service, or restricted activities within the district. I just want my family to enjoy our property like all of you do. We do not want to live and breathe barbecue for the rest of our lives on our own property. This isn't right. I would please appreciate if the town board considered 4 requests, which I will email to you. I would like the town board to consider redrawing the zoning line to reflect the original residential boundary as it was supposed to be. Maybe it's too late to rescind restaurant use, but at least the town would be forced to recognize that people actually live with the consequences of this thing so close. I request that the town board take action to rectify the situation it caused. Barbecue should never have been allowed so close to anyone's home, and let alone near residential district. They've been turned away everywhere else in Patterson. It's wrong that this is here, and I think you all are aware of that. If the town board is telling us this mistake has to stay too, that the impacts and use are allowed because it's a barbecue restaurant, then the town board should make it comply as a restaurant. The town is now permitting it to operate as a fast food and a catering business, which are not allowed, knowing these activities are causing more impacts for our residents. I request that the town board direct the code officer to enforce compliance. And then lastly, I have submitted multiple Freedom of Information requests, maybe a half a dozen or so since August, to access building department records. I have been denied copies. I'd like the town board to direct the building department to release these files.
Well, it just so happens our newly minted Director of Codes is here. Robert, would you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway.
Well, a lot of these issues obviously became before July. Okay, so I inherited this barbecue place.
Understood.
The problem is that I feel it's like we have a restaurant out there, okay? It has 4 tables, seating capacity of anywhere from 16, could be 20. Okay, so is it a restaurant? Yes. Does it have takeout? Yes, I'm not going to deny that. Catering, they do say that they do catering. That's why it's in front of you guys to basically, let's do something about catering and takeout and redefine restaurants. Now, if I go after Triple B, where do I go? Do I stop there? Do I go after Soros? Do I go after the Carriage House? They all do takeout. They all do catering. So this is the situation that I'm in. If I go after Triple B, I have to go after every restaurant in this town. How do I go around and try to shut every restaurant in this town? That's on your table. So this is the situation that I'm in. Also, whatever boundaries there were about a compressor and everything else like that, yes, there is a slight hum. I do hear it. I mean, it's behind a business district, you know? So is there a hum? Yes, there is. You know, do I find it, you know, above 45 decibels? No. But it's not in my backyard. And I understand the 24/7. I also, the smell, you know, it's supposed to be an obnoxious smell. Anything 24/7, I'm going to feel is obnoxious, okay? And that's basically my decision to make that. You know what I mean? If I go out there. I have gone out there a number of times, and I unfortunately don't smell it. You know what I mean? I don't live there 24/7. You know, maybe some smell, you know, smells are stronger. Maybe they can smell it. So I don't. But I think the biggest thing is, where are we going to go with this catering? You know, where are we going to go with that takeout? I think the restaurant. And where do you guys want me to do? You know, if I go after Triple B, he wants me to go after everybody else. You know, Zagrelli's right across the street. They do pizza. You know, but where do I go? So in, you know, light of trying to, you know, basically save business in town, you know, where am I going?
Don, you can't comment on this because he's your, right? He's your
Actually,
client?
I'm sorry, but Don and Hogan Rossi actually have to recuse
Right.
themselves.
So I'm not going to put you on the spot. So I mean, I would just say this. I mean, Dee Dee, I think we're all sympathetic to the situation, and I think Bob has done everything but stand on his head to try to go out there to affect a solution. You know, my sense from hearing Rich talk about the case is that I don't know that the town acted improperly. It's being the Monday morning quarterback and looking back at the situation, maybe there were better ways it could have been approached. So I don't know that there was anything unlawful or improper as to what the town did, granting what we did, what we knew at the time.
Okay, well,
but
how do you, I mean, the definition under restaurant is clearly saying that it should be consumed inside. Now, 4 tables, there's no way that the cooking is supplying just 4 measly tables.
And I agree that it's actually, you're right, it is a restaurant.
Right,
But
so-
the situation that we
so
have is
the-
every restaurant.
but the
And
issue-
also the fact that it's serving everything out of a counter, it says it will not be considered a restaurant if it has stand-up counters. It's
Right, but I
serving
mean,
food.
we've gone through these issues at I mean, almost every meeting we've had, you've come to and we've talked about the issues, and you have every right to do that. But at the end of the day, if the town acted improperly, you have, or there's 2 legal remedies that you have. You could file a petition seeking to reverse a finding of the town. If the town acted improperly, you could bring a petition to vacate some action that we took if we acted unlawfully. I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but you should talk to an attorney about it if you really feel that the town of Patterson acted unlawfully in granting a CO to this restaurant. You certainly have a legal remedy. We don't think, looking at the code, that there's something that we can undo at this point. But if you feel that the town acted unlawfully, you can retain counsel and bring a petition. The second legal remedy you have, which I know I mentioned to you a few months ago, is an action to quiet a nuisance, and that's an action by someone who can bring a private citizen who's aggrieved by the actions of a neighbor. Those are 2 legal remedies you have. I know you're.
I'm still not understanding how these are allowed. If the amount of catering and takeout exceeds the business of a restaurant, how can you allow it to go on? You're having these 2 extra things going on out of a restaurant. Everything is being defined as a restaurant, even though it's not.
And I think the
it's not
Monday
defined
morning
as-
quarterback aspect of this is looking back at how we reviewed that application. There wasn't very clear definitions in our zoning, and I think it went within the definitions we had at the time.
Well, that would mean
and I think now
every
we're-
caterer or takeout place could put in 1 table, and by this definition,
Okay,
then that is.
I'm just saying, I don't, from what I've heard, I don't know that there's anything more we can do, but if you feel there's something more that we can do, you have 2 legal remedies. You can bring an action to quiet a nuisance, or you can bring a petition against the town to undo something if you really think we unlawfully did something, and see what someone, a third party thinks in that regard. I mean,
So-
I think we've talked about the issue in good faith and tried to come to a solution, and I haven't personally seen any obvious solution for us to undo this, the situation.
So they are allowed to close down and then take their food and sell off-site, and they're allowed to close down all winter and continue catering during the winter, even though the restaurant is closed.
According to Bob, I did talk to him after the email that we got, he didn't open up. I asked him, I said, did you open up, did you do catering, off-site catering? He claims he said no to me. This is what he just told
See
me.
it coming out.
I don't know. I'm not there.
The only other thing I can suggest is the town board, since our town council.
He's not opening up, he's keeping closed, and he's cooking there.
The only other thing I can suggest to the town board for consideration, since our town council is disqualified, what's the right way to, conflicted out, we could certainly retain special counsel to look at the situation if we feel that that's something that we would like another person to look at this. I don't know that goes anywhere in the end, but we obviously can't talk to our lawyer and ask him about it because he has a conflict. If the board, hearing what they've heard thus far, and Sean, you're probably in the
I was
best
going to ask a
equipped to.
question of council, a general question unrelated to this facility as best we can. Since we're looking at the definitions as we speak for catering for restaurant, when those definitions are created and amended within our code, does that change the application of the code to existing and future facilities? Or, in other words, by changing a definition, do we now possibly make something?
As far as the authority to amend the code and have it have some type of amortization effect or an ability to zone out existing uses, I believe that there is some authority for that, but it is a very stringent test for the town board to meet. I give an example of ones that I would know off the top of my head if a zoning code is adopted in a junkyard, for example, is in what has now become a residential neighborhood. I know that there are local codes that I believe have been upheld that said that once this goes into effect, the use can continue for a certain period of time, geared to ensuring some reasonable return on investment, hence the term amortizing of the
Sure.
of the use. Whether this rises to that level and is all a matter for the boards to consider. And again, I'm sympathetic to
Sure.
Dee Dee's situation, but again, know the operator and have kept abreast of the facts,
Well,
and we really can't.
I
opine.
think Kevin's suggestion of the possibility of special counsel is probably a good suggestion at this point, because if catering and fast food is ancillary to the restaurant business, and this guy's restaurant is closed down, then the catering is a principal business that's not allowed. So, I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry to me that if the restaurant is closed and all he's doing is catering, then you have no reason not to shut him down.
I talked to the guy, and he claims he didn't. I mean,
Well,
this is what he told
You
me.
could drive by in the winter, and there wasn't one bit of snow on top
If
of
the
it.
sign on the door says closed for the winter, and he's still over there smoking away,
Please, his employees work upstairs. I mean, they don't have to open to do this.
They work upstairs.
They work,
I
I mean, they
I
live upstairs.
understand that, but if catering is an ancillary use, as opposed to the principal use, but now the restaurant's closed, this has become the principal use. It's not permitted.
And what about the definition that says stand-up counters shall not be considered a restaurant, and they serve from stand-up counters there?
Look, so does Kentucky Fried Chicken, so does McDonald's, so does everybody else. The bottom line here to me is that.
You're not cooking to.
Well, I think the
Dee Dee,
confusion is
I'm
that-
trying to give Bob some direction here. If the restaurant is closed for the winter, and this guy is doing all this cooking on site, he's not serving the food on site. Obviously, he's catering. Catering is not a permitted principal use. There's no reason that you can't go out there and tell him to stop.
I go by there minimum once a week, if not more. And do I ever see it open? No, I don't.
You're not going to see anything. They're cooking
Then how do you
inside.
expect me to, if I don't see anything, what am I
No,
doing?
I'm saying you're not
No
going to
one's
see
there.
them opening. They don't open. They just make the things and they take it away. Why, you're not going to see it.
If there's
open.
smoke coming out of the chimney, Bob, if there's smoke coming out of that exhaust system and
Yeah.
it says closed for the winter,
I have no
clear,
problem with all
right?
that. Yeah,
Clear.
no, that's,
And to
did I
get
ever
to
see
your
smoke coming out of there? No.
right, to get to your point though about other facilities, I think that's a more complex issue we have to look at, because every deli, by nature of the definition of deli, and that's probably what we should look at, is classifying restaurants / delis, because every deli out there is a takeout style business. That's inherent to the approval of a deli, and I think we need to look at that. If that style business isn't going to work where it's being proposed, we need the flexibility within our code. So by getting you to enforce the catering aspect, as Mike just described, is not a direction then to go and apply the exact same philosophy or logic to every deli in town. I think we need to look at that. Also, in this case, we do have active complaints that have been lodged. So there's
Okay.
an implication that there's a
Could I
public
ask
health
just
concern.
one more
One
sec-
second,
oh,
let me
okay.
finish. There's a public health concern, there's a noise concern, and there's a quality of life concern. We haven't had those issues lodged against other active deli-type businesses. Sorry, Dee Dee, go right ahead.
Okay, I think last time I was here, there was discussion about the amount of catering and takeout compared to what is being eaten inside the building, and I think that alone is not even being looked into.
How can I do that? I'm just asking you, how can I do that? How can I actually say it's 50% catering and 50% takeout?
I bet if you
you
sat
tell me
there, in your truck and watched people eat versus take things out and watch the catering go out, I think visually it would be very easy to see. Not that I,
And again, catering is different.
I mean, they're not eating at the tables. The amount of
Yeah.
meals being served at the table is minuscule, and it's really a takeout place. I mean, they're a caterer, and they're catering and bringing meals by the trayful, and that's being cooked. I guess I'm perplexed, and I know what you're saying, but I cannot believe that our property now has to live breathing this and smelling it every single day. There's got to be a reason, a way.
So do we
to-
need a motion for a special counsel to retain a special
Well,
counsel?
the only,
Decide to
I
do
guess
it.
we can make it
Well,
generic.
we have to know you do have a remedy. I just gave you two. You can sue the town, you can sue the other entity. You can
Well,
quiet-
thank
you can
you,
move to
thank you,
quiet-
Kevin, but
But I mean, those are, you're throwing up your
But
hands
the
and saying there's
responsibilities-
nothing we can do. There are two things you can do, you don't want to do them. You want us to do something, we're trying
Yeah, I
to-
do.
we're
I
trying
want the town
we're
to do
trying to do something, and I haven't seen, but the times you sat up here and you presented your case, and I'm sympathetic to the situation, I haven't seen an obvious move for the town. I mean, if I'm alone on this, I don't think anybody here has said, why don't we do, we need to
okay,
do
well,
A, B,
so
and C,
far,
and this is gonna be
so
fixed.
far, the amount of sales or the amount of food being served there has never been even quantified. So that you haven't done.
Well,
You
that's-
haven't shown me. You haven't shown me, and since I'm coming to you saying that the amount of catering and takeout far exceed the restaurant, which is what it's supposed to be, and
We
I'm
don't-
asking
as-
you
as
to.
a- okay. I mean, as a town, we're not gonna put the building inspector out in front of Soros, in every Italian restaurant and deli in town to measure takeout versus who's eating in.
So
and
you're not
everything
going to
else.
enforce the code
I'm
then?
not saying we're not, we've been trying to enforce the code. We have so many limited resources. And he's been out there, it's not as if we just said, we're not gonna do anything about it, we've tried, there's obviously, I mean, you can set up a surveillance camera and get, we can do 24-hour surveillance video of the place. I'm just, you're throwing up your hands and saying there's nothing that you can do, it's all on us, and there are remedies that you have. You don't want to exercise them, I understand that, that's fine, but you don't stand up and just say, I'm helpless, I have no remedy, because you do. You don't want to exercise that remedy. I understand people hate lawyers, they don't want to get lawyers involved, they don't want to pay lawyers, but sometimes lawyers can do some good for you.
True.
I'm just saying, so you can't come before us and say you're helpless.
I'm not
So-
saying I'm helpless.
But
I'm
you
saying
just
I
have.
want you to help me more
And
than
I
you
think
do.
we've tried. I don't sense as a board that we've turned a blind eye to this and said,
No,
we don't
I
want to
agree.
do anything.
I-
I just don't see an obvious solution. You get up and say the same thing. I'm empathetic, but I don't know what the solution
Okay,
is.
so the last time I was here, I did ask you to look into the amount of catering and takeout, and you did say that you would look into it. So
And
are
it's
you saying that
closed.
you cannot do that?
I
Isn't-
think that's such a difficult thing to quantify, and I'm not sure how we would do that, short of somebody, the owner, being very honest with what their production is versus what they sell on site. But one thing, Bob, I think we can do is speak to the owner. If he's advertising on his website for catering, that's within his right.
He is.
But what's not within his right is to do the catering out of this facility. So unless he can identify to you another permitted facility in some other county, because he doesn't have another one here in Putnam, then somehow or another, unless he has a mobile or he's going to people's houses, because catering
Saying
allows that.
I thought you said he was cooking it at home.
Catering allows for
Okay.
him to take his mobile operation that he's permitted to have, his mobile vehicle, let's say a barbecue truck, and go to someone's backyard and do a pig roast, let's say, or a barbecue event, supported by the restaurant but not cooked on site. Let's make that distinction.
Okay, well,
That's perfectly
I
acceptable.
think Bob told
And
me
I
that
think,
he was
Dee, you
cooking
would
this
agree
at
with that.
home, right?
Yes.
And I went to the North Salem, and they said first of all, he's not allowed to do
No.
that, and secondly,
Right.
they did not find any evidence that he was cooking there.
Right.
So
So I mean, he's permitted to have a catering operation via this mobile vehicle not only by Putnam County, but we wouldn't have any problem with that because we don't have any jurisdiction over that.
right.
So the big issue is if he is doing this, he either has to be doing it out of the mobile permitted vehicle or doing it out of another permitted commissary, if you will. Some place that he has approval to go and prepare foods at a location other than Putnam Lake. And he hasn't proven that. So that's a conversation that can simply be had with this gentleman to say, tell me, be honest with me, what are you doing? Because this is going to come to a head. I agree with you that if he is doing catering and we can prove that, that's not permitted on site and we have to take an action on that. We just simply tell him, it's a violation if you're doing this sort of operation. Takeout is different than catering. Somebody going to, you mentioned this stand-up if somebody walks into the counter, that's not the idea, I don't believe, that was intended with the code with stand-up window. That's more like a Red Rooster or a Kentucky Fried, a
But it's
walk-up
in the
type
restaurant, it
operation.
is in the restaurant definition.
Yeah, but I think the essence of what is intended is, every business does takeout. Every business does delivery. Those definitions do not create catering. You're talking about two separate things. So I'm not disagreeing with you on the catering aspect, on the off-site service and delivery of food. But like pizza delivery, Soros, if they want to go deliver a pizza to someone's house and drop it off at their front door, that's not catering. It's delivery. It's different. Catering is where they set it up and they serve it and they're responsible for it from the time they make it to the time the consumer eats it. That's a whole nother level of
Well, I know that's
preparation.
more complicated because maybe they have more tables, and maybe you could then justify the amount of eating inside versus outside. I'm just saying that if this was really a restaurant and people were eating at 4 tables, I don't
Sure.
think we'd be having this
Sure.
discussion. But the amount of fast food and the amount of catering going out of there
Yeah.
is cooking all night long, and that wouldn't have to happen. And
I understand.
so, how do we leave this? Will at least you look into the catering?
Honestly, the catering, I can wait for the board, tell me. You're right.
Well, we're
Yes,
changing our
Not
definition.
washing.
I think
Right.
your instructions were very clear from Sean. You are to speak to the gentleman that owns a restaurant.
Which I did.
If he tells you that he is cooking and serving food out of there while the sign says closed, then I think you are
He's
well
gonna
within
deny
your
that, is that what you
authority
said?
to close it down.
Correct. I talked to him after the last email that we got, that it was open, I guess, for a special event. He claims he did not open. I mean, what else am I supposed to do?
No, that's not, you're missing the conversation. You go after today, you go there tomorrow or the next day, you meet with him, you say, if you're advertising, pull up his website. If you're advertising for catering right now, if I could call him on the phone and say, I'd like you to cater my son's party.
They would say yes.
And they say yes, and you say, well, where are you doing this out of? Well, I'm going to do it out of here. No, that's not an appropriate use of this site. That's not what this site is supposed to be used for.
For catering out of there, right?
Correct.
Yep.
If he can do it off his mobile truck and cook it on site, that's a whole different
Well, the next
scenario.
problem that I have is all of a sudden he said he's claiming catering out of Fairfield Drive. And all of a sudden now
Right.
he's coming to your house. Now basically
Right.
almost that business aspect is basically done at Fairfield Drive. 'Cause
Say
he's
that again.
claiming-
I missed your point.
I'm calling you, you're Bob, okay, you're Soda, you're Triple
Mhm.
B. All of a sudden, I need you to cater, okay? Okay, no problem, I'm calling basically Fairfield Drive, that's actually where the place of business is.
Well, that's not a problem. It's not where he answers the phone. It's where the food is being
Well,
smoked.
he's advertising, it's going out
Yeah.
of the restaurant. The business is going out of the restaurant. He shouldn't even be,
Dee Dee,
All right, maybe-
yeah, at this point, I think we've got the picture really, really, really clear.
And the second half is our definitions, which we're working on.
Yes, there is that too.
And the definition, if I may add to, if you put a percent in there, try to explain to me.
I
how
don't,
am
I
gonna-
Mike, I don't think
I
you
don't
should be
think
doing
there's
that.
any percent. I think where we have to go with our code is going to have to do with, number one, where are these things appropriately located in terms of zoning?
thank you.
Number two, something along the lines of obnoxious, offensive. It's just like the burning permit. If you have a burning permit and your neighbor complains, you have to stop burning.
That's right.
End of story. There's nothing else. There's no other discussion. And that's where I think, we have to be, where we have to go to hang our hat. Nobody's complaining about the Carriage House. Nobody's complaining about the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
Nobody's complaining about Soros. Somebody's complaining about this place.
Mhm.
So if there's a problem, and believe me, if somebody was barbecuing next to my house 24/7, I'd be here doing the exact same thing.
Maybe have to show him.
So, whoops,
Moved.
whoops. You're young.
You can figure that out.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so, I'm sorry, just to follow up, is legal counsel, are you passing that?
I'm gonna have an internal discussion with Bob. Actually, we're gonna invite Bob into our executive session to discuss this a little further. And if it is decided that special counsel would be appropriate, then we will come out of executive session and move to hire special counsel.
All right,
See
if you could
special
reread the definition of restaurant, because if you're
Dee
not
Dee,
going by
we've
it,
got
why
it.
have it here?
We've got it. we've got it.
Okay. I appreciate it, I know. You have no idea how this has affected our lives.
Believe me, I had a plastics place across the street from my house for many years. And at 2 in the morning when they were grinding up their mistakes, at 4 a.m. when they were filling the silos with pellets, it's not a lot of fun.
And just may I add that
So-
I know you said you've gone over there. You've never come to our house. You can't smell it right under the fan is 25 feet up in the air. You'd be happy to go in my bedroom at 2:30 in the morning and smell barbecue. And
That's on the record.
Well, is it possible that the barbecue smell is in there now and so
TMI.
entrenched that it's just?
Did you see it for 6 months?
just
Yeah.
trust me, it sucks.
I
All
mean,
right, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
mean, might be in your curtains, it could be in your carpeting. I mean, that stuff, once it's in, it never comes out. Believe me. My house got sprayed by a skunk once, and it took a really, really, really long time. And there was no more skunk after that.
All right, follow.
You're invited.
On that note, okay, other business, I'd like public recognition, so I'd like to say thank you very much for this appointment, but I think I want it to pull.
I was just going to say, you may want to change your
No,
mind.
I mean, this is a job that it's not something that I really expected. You know, I was in building trades for 30 years. I built a lot of things and made a lot of people happy. I can't make everybody happy here. I try. You know what I mean? I work for the town, but I also work for the residents too.
We just
It's a
ask
lot
you to be fair.
That's all. I try to be fair and under guidance. You know, I mean, I go after one.
Well, we're gonna give you some guidance in a few minutes.
That's
Stick
all.
around.
Hey, I'm looking for that stuff.
All
But
right.
thank you very much.
Is there any other member of the public that wishes to be recognized?
Can I
at
just
this time?
ask one more question? That I get the file, my FOIL request. Could you,
What's the file that we have?
Bob, please?
Well, no. Bob, I think you need to sit down. I think we have a
higher authority.
We have a better answer coming.
Perfect.
Hi, I'm Cheryl. I'm the secretary in the building department, and I have been advised by council to run everything past them first. And to my understanding, everything was going to be referred from Hogan and Rossi to a special prosecutor.
All right, well, as far as your records are concerned, we won't use prosecutor as the term, but
Oh, good.
special counsel may
Special
be.
counsel.
I will consult with special counsel tomorrow, and I will get an answer for you forthwith.
That would be good, because I don't know. I was told that there are things in the files that are not privy to the public. And before I give things under a FOIL, especially in
You've never really met Bob Friedman, have you?
No.
Oh, well, Bob Friedman
Everything's
for many
foilable.
years was in charge of the Freedom of Information for the state of New York, and there was no such thing as far as Bob was concerned.
Yeah, well, then Bob and I would have an argument, because
Well,
there are
Bob
things in
and I
there
had
that are not
frequently had
privy to the
arguments.
public.
But I will get an answer for you as to what can and can't be released.
I did speak directly to the executive director, Bob Freeman, specifically about this.
He hasn't retired yet?
No, he's still there.
Oh.
He does say that you have some discretion, but in this case, since the council was used for creating policy and letters went out to that effect, it is public record, according
Thank
to
you.
what he said. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be recognized?
Yeah. Just Rich Williams, resident. I mean, I'm just very, very concerned about what I just heard here. Don, did you actually suggest that on a FOIL request that was made back in August, that we not release the records?
Rich, I have to say, number one, I think we can give a general request. I don't recall personally having said we can't release it. We have acknowledged from the beginning of discussions on this matter the conflict that I have, and so that everyone knows, Bob Soto, who's the owner of this place, is a neighbor of mine. So we have not opined on any matter related to this. If we, I don't recall the exact communication, but I don't think we would have said don't release anything. We've never inspected the file. We've never made a determination on the specifics of it. And quite frankly, I think we can give Cheryl and Bob a generic, rubric of what is and what might not be discoverable and disclosable.
Are there items in our files
I don't
that
know.
should not be disclosed? Because I got to tell you, from my office, I mean, we go on the principle that, everything within our files is open to the public. We're here to serve the public, and the public should be able to come in whenever, anytime, open those files up and see what's going on. And, I'm very concerned when we start talking about withholding records from the public. I think it's not appropriate. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Rich, there's
Richard.
not information that you don't redact, personal information that you don't redact from records when you send out FOIL?
There are certainly requirements within public officers' law, that section, which things are not subject to disclosure. But generally, in our records, in building department records,
not
we're not going to have that. It's going to be
Yeah.
more in the personnel records. Has to do with things like social security numbers.
Okay.
Well, on that note, actually, it wasn't you, it was Mike Lugori actually did say that we actually wanted to refrain from holding some stuff back, and we're waiting on, special counsel. So that's actually where we're at right now.
So you'll follow up with them tomorrow, Mike?
Okay, so we were
Yeah.
actually told to withhold.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with the attorney in about 5 minutes. Is there any other member of the public that wish to be recognized at this time? I need a motion to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming. Good night, Eileen.